Hello, my name is Sarah. The tale I am about to share is not for pity, but to impart a lesson I learned at the cost of my own happiness, my family, and the peace I once possessed. This is a narrative of errors, suffering, and deep regret, and the enduring weight of irreversible choices. It's a story etched onto my heart, a reality I confront each day. My name is Sarah, I am 30 years old, and I reside in Oakhaven Shores, North Carolina, a charming coastal town in the United States that has been my home for most of my life. For me, Oakhaven Shores is more than just a place, it is a tapestry of memories that have shaped me. I can still recall my childhood afternoons spent sitting on the warm sand, listening to the rhythmic crash of waves against the shore, gazing at the limitless blue expanse above. It felt as though I could inhale tranquility, as if every gust of wind and every wave breaking on the rock spoke a language only my soul understood. The ocean, with its beauty, mystery, and vastness, became an intrinsic part of me. It was the backdrop of my youth, fostering my affection for the sea and the narratives it held. From a young age, I was captivated by the life around the beach, the bustling boardwalk filled with vacationers, the lively chatter of people from diverse backgrounds sharing stories from across the globe. This constant motion ignited a sense of curiosity within me. I yearned to hear more, see more, and comprehend more. I dreamt of becoming a guide, someone who could not only showcase the beauty of my hometown but also the history and spirit of the places I cherished. I envisioned myself leading people on a journey, presenting the world through my perspective, sharing my passion for the locations I held dear. Becoming a tour guide was not a simple path. When I graduated from high school, I was determined to transform my dreams into reality, but the road ahead was far from smooth. I didn't come from wealth. I had no one to pave the way for me. I worked long, grueling hours in part-time jobs, sacrificing my evenings and weekends to save for the courses required to achieve my dream. The financial strain was immense, but my resolve was unwavering. After years of diligent work and perseverance, 7 years ago, my dream finally materialized. I officially became a tour guide. It wasn't merely a job to me, it was a calling. Not only did it provide income, but it also fulfilled my passion for sharing the world's beauty. I was doing something I genuinely loved. Looking back, I realize how much I have matured, not just in age, but in my capacity to overcome challenges and setbacks. Oakhaven Shores had given me the foundation, and I built upon it. I transformed my passion into a fulfilling career, and I was proud of my achievements. But everything shifted the day Matteo walked into my life. He was a tall, refined, confident man from Italy, possessing a charm that could stop anyone. He came to Oakhaven Shores for a brief visit, bringing with him the warmth of the Mediterranean. We first met during one of my tours. His eyes brightened as I discussed the area's rich history, and I could tell he was genuinely captivated by what I said. His questions weren't superficial, they were insightful, and there was something about his curiosity that made me want to prolong the conversation. What began as casual chat soon deepened into profound, meaningful discussions. Matteo had a knack for making me feel unique, as if I were the only person who mattered. His words were like music to me, and there was an undeniable connection between us. He often spoke of his hometown in Italy, sharing tales of its culture and people. In return, I shared my own memories with him, my love for Oakhaven Shores, the ocean, and my childhood by the sea. It wasn't long before I recognized a powerful bond between us, one that transcended cultural differences and distance. We were connected in a way I couldn't articulate. After a year filled with romantic moments and unforgettable memories, Matteo proposed one warm afternoon as the sun was setting, painting the beach in exquisite hues of red and gold. The small ring on his finger sparkled in the evening light, but his eyes shone even brighter. There was an expression in his gaze that told me he was ready to spend his life with me. I said yes, and we embarked on our journey together. We moved into a small, comfortable house near the beach, where the sound of the waves became our constant companion. Every evening, we would sit together, laughing, talking, and simply reveling in each other's presence. It was the life I had always envisioned, a life brimming with love, warmth, and joy. And then came the greatest blessing of all when our daughter, Lily, was born. She had the most beautiful brown eyes, just like Matteo. The moment she was born, I wept, not from pain, but from the overwhelming emotion of it all. She was the living embodiment of our love, a miracle I never thought I deserved, and I vowed to cherish her every single day, Matteo began working as a manager at a prestigious hotel in the city, and his career quickly flourished. He was an exceptional leader, and his ability to connect with people earned him the respect of everyone around him. As for me, although life became busier with a newborn, I continued my work as a tour guide. It wasn't just a job, it was my passion. Each day, I found joy in sharing the ocean's beauty with tourists. But most of all, I treasured returning home to Matteo and Lily, where laughter and love awaited me. For a time, everything seemed perfect. We were living the life we had always dreamed of, and I believed nothing could shatter it. But life has a way of changing, and it wasn't long before the realities of marriage set in. After the initial excitement of our union subsided, we found ourselves consumed by the demands of work, responsibilities, and the constant pressure of daily life. Matteo became increasingly engrossed in his career. His long business trips and endless meetings left little time for us. Meanwhile, I found myself juggling a demanding tour schedule and the responsibilities of motherhood. We were like two planets in separate orbits, slowly drifting apart without even realizing it. Initially, I clung to the hope that it was merely a phase, that things would improve eventually. But soon, dinners eaten alone in front of the TV and waking up in an empty bed without a greeting became the norm. Our conversations grew sparse, filled with polite inquiries and vague plans neither of us had time to follow through on. There were nights I would sit in the darkness of our home, listening to the sound of the waves outside the window. The sound that once brought me peace now deepened my solitude. The house I once called home now felt like a hollow shell, devoid of the emotions and connections that had once defined it. I felt adrift, disconnected from the love I believed would last forever. The emptiness inside me grew larger each day, gnawing at me like an unrelenting monster, and then, in a moment of vulnerability, I made a choice that would alter everything. It was a fleeting decision, but its consequences were like crashing waves, demolishing everything I held dear. I never imagined that a stranger, someone entirely outside my world, would disrupt my life so dramatically. Liam entered my life one summer afternoon while I was guiding a group of tourists on a beach tour near my house. Liam was tall, strong, with piercing blue eyes that seemed to capture the very essence of the sea. He didn't possess a flashy demeanor, but there was a calmness about him, a warm smile that drew me in. At first, we exchanged pleasantries, but there was something different about him. He wasn't just interested in my stories. He responded with such thoughtfulness that I couldn't help but be captivated. We spoke about the sea, about life in Oakhaven Shores, and about his homeland, Ireland. Liam's words held a magical quality, stirring something deep within me, a sense of familiarity I couldn't quite place. Our encounters became more frequent, with Liam finding excuses to linger after the tours, asking about trivial things like where to find a good coffee shop or a quiet beach path. Then, one evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, he invited me to sit on the beach and watch the sunset. I couldn't decline. We sat in silence, observing the sky transform from gold to red, feeling the soft sea breeze against our skin. Inside, a fire began to ignite, something I couldn't ignore. As the days went by, Liam became the highlight of my routine. We didn't just talk on the beach, we explored the town together, seeing familiar places through his eyes. There was a sense of freedom and spontaneity in those moments, a feeling I hadn't experienced in years. When I was with Liam, I forgot everything. I forgot the loneliness of my empty house, the growing distance between Matteo and me, and the parts of myself I had suppressed. It didn't remain innocent for long. One evening, as the waves gently kissed the shore, Liam reached for my hand. That simple touch ignited something in me, burning away any rational thought. He pulled me closer, and before I could react, his lips were on mine. The kiss was intense, as if he had been waiting his entire life for that moment. In that instant, all my defenses crumbled, and I knew I was doing something wrong, but I couldn't stop myself. I surrendered to his embrace. The days that followed were a mix of guilt and yearning. Liam brought excitement, something I had been missing in my marriage. But with every moment I spent with him, the weight of my betrayal grew heavier. The image of Matteo, my devoted husband and the father of our daughter, constantly haunted me. I attempted to rationalize my actions, telling myself I was simply seeking what had been lost in my marriage, affection, connection, and the feeling of being loved. But deep down, I knew there was no justification for what I was doing. Liam wasn't the solution to my problems. He was a storm that swept through my life, leaving only devastation in its wake. Every time I said goodbye to Liam after our encounters, a part of me felt torn. I wanted to stop, but I lacked the strength. Liam was like an addiction, something I couldn't quit even though I knew it was wrong. He was gentle, patient, and made me feel special. But I knew this couldn't last. It was just a brief escape, and soon I would have to confront the repercussions of my actions. The guilt intensified every time I looked at Lily. Her innocent eyes, so much like Mateo's, gazed at me with unwavering trust. I wondered if she would ever forgive me if she knew the truth. Would Mateo, the man I had pledged to love for life, ever be able to forgive me for betraying him? These questions gnawed at me, making me realize that no amount of passion Liam could ever excuse the destruction I had caused. I began avoiding Liam, but it wasn't easy. He texted, called, and found ways to meet me. Every time I saw his name on my phone, my heart would race with a mix of fear and desire. I knew I needed to end it, but I didn't have the courage to say goodbye. Liam wasn't a bad person. He simply entered my life at the wrong time when I was weak and vulnerable. I was the one who allowed this to happen, and I was the one who had to face the consequences. One evening, when Liam asked to meet again, I knew I had to make a definitive decision. As the sun set and the sky turned a soft shade of pink, I looked into his eyes, the same eyes that had once captivated me. But now, those eyes brought only pain. I told him we couldn't continue. Liam was silent, his eyes filled with confusion, but then his expression hardened. He didn't become angry or raise his voice. Instead, he asked a question that tore me apart. Are you happy? That question shattered me. I couldn't answer him because deep down, I knew the truth. Liam left that night, taking with him feelings I would never forget. But I knew that to save my marriage and protect what was most important in my life, I had to let go of him. Even though it broke my heart, it was the only path forward, not just for Mateo and Lily, but for myself. When I discovered I was pregnant, my emotions were a tumultuous whirlwind. The news should have been joyous, a miracle amidst my complicated, turbulent feelings. Yet, I was consumed by fear, doubt, and confusion. I wasn't certain who the father was, Mateo, my husband, the man I had promised fidelity to, or Liam, the man who had reignited a spark within me I had long forgotten. My mind raced as I desperately tried to determine the truth. Could it be Mateo, or were the passionate moments I had shared with Liam responsible? I felt trapped within myself. I had no idea how I would tell Mateo, or if I would ever find the strength to confess. What if he rejected me? What if he couldn't forgive me? The fear of facing the consequences of my actions paralyzed me. The guilt ate away at me, making it impossible to relish the simple joys of pregnancy, like feeling the baby move for the first time, knowing my life had become a tangled mess of lies. The days passed slowly. I kept telling myself that everything would work out, that I would somehow set things right. But I knew deep down that the day the baby was born, the truth would be undeniable. And when that day arrived, I wasn't sure I could endure the consequences. The day my son, Noah, was born, the world seemed to stand still. It was a rainy morning, and the air felt heavy with anticipation. When the doctor placed the baby in my arms, a mixture of joy and confusion overwhelmed me. I looked down at my son, his tiny face, his slightly darker skin tone, and his deep dark eyes. It was then I realized the truth was inescapable. Noah looked unmistakably like Liam. The features, the eyes, everything. There was no concealing it. I could feel the walls closing in around me. The moment Mateo walked into the room and saw his son, the look on his face transformed. His smile froze, and his eyes fixated on Noah's complexion. There was no mistaking the shift in his demeanor. He turned his gaze to me, and I saw the doubt in his eyes. The silence in the room was stifling. I could sense his confusion, his hurt, and his growing anger within him. But he uttered not a single word. He just stood there, trying to process everything without asking me a single question. My heart shattered. I knew the truth could no longer be hidden. The air in the room felt thick with tension, and every breath I took seemed to intensify the guilt. Mateo remained silent, simply staring at Noah, and the quiet between us grew louder with each passing second. The days that followed were fraught with tension. Mateo barely spoke to me. His silence was more terrifying than any words could have been. Every time he held Noah, there was a look of worry in his eyes, a look of doubt he couldn't conceal. I knew the suspicion in his heart was strengthening daily, but but I couldn't summon the courage to tell him the truth. I was afraid of what would happen if I did. I was afraid of losing him, of losing my family, and most of all, I was terrified of facing the consequences of what I had done. Then came the day of Noah's 1-month celebration. We had invited family and friends over to celebrate, but Mateo was distant. He didn't seem to enjoy the festivities. He sat quietly in a corner, his eyes never leaving the baby. It was as if he was trying to assemble the puzzle of our lives, searching for the answer to the question that had been tormenting him. After the guests departed, Mateo approached me. His voice was calm, but each word he spoke pierced me like a knife. "We need to do a DNA test," he said. The words hit me like a physical blow. I had been holding my breath for so long, desperately trying to keep everything hidden. But now, there was no denying the truth. I couldn't lie anymore. I couldn't pretend anymore. Tears welled up in my eyes as I lowered my head in shame. I had no strength left to deny it. I confessed everything. I told him about Liam, about the affair, about the lies I had told him. The words tumbled out, choked by sobs and regret. But even as I confessed, I couldn't bring myself to look him in the eye. The shame was too overwhelming. Mateo didn't yell, he didn't scream, he didn't even seem angry. He just stood there, silent, as if trying to absorb the shock of what I had just said. His silence was worse than any criticism or anger. It made me feel small and worthless. That night, Mateo didn't sleep. I could hear him moving around the house, quietly packing his belongings. I sat in the darkness, holding our son, unable to find the words to speak. I wanted to beg him to stay, to tell him how sorry I was, but I knew I had no right to ask. Mateo had given me everything, love, trust, a family, and I had destroyed it all with my own actions. When he finished packing, he turned to me one last time. His voice was hoarse as he said, "I'm going back to Italy. I'll take Lily with me. You live with your choice." Those words felt like a punch to my gut. I wanted to stop him, to plead with him to stay, but I knew it was too late. I had ruined everything. Mateo had been the best husband, and I had thrown it all away for a moment of weakness. As he walked out the door, I saw Lily running after him, her small figure appearing in the doorway. She looked at me, confusion and sadness in her eyes, and asked, "Aren't you coming with us, Mommy?" Her words struck me like a dagger, my own daughter asking why I wasn't joining them, why I wasn't going to fix what I had broken. I shook my head, unable to speak. Tears streamed down my face as I watched Mateo bend down to pick up Lily and walk out the door, leaving me behind. The sound of the door closing echoed through the house, a painful reminder of everything I had lost. The house, once filled with laughter and love, was now empty. It was just me and Noah, and the cold walls surrounding us seemed to whisper reminders of all the mistakes I had made. The waves outside, which once brought me peace, now felt like a constant reprimand. In the days after Mateo left, I felt lost. I tried to focus on my son, to love and care for him, but the weight of my guilt never lifted. Noah was too young to comprehend what had happened. He didn't know he was born out of a mistake, that his mother had sacrificed her Emily for moments of passion. But every time I looked into his eyes, I felt the sting of my betrayal. I wondered if I could ever compensate for the damage I had inflicted. I wondered if my love for Noah would ever be enough to atone for the mistakes I had made. There were nights I lay awake in bed, staring out at the moonlit sea, questioning if I could ever forgive myself. The beach house had become an emotional prison, a place where I was forced to confront the consequences of my actions. But simultaneously, it was the only place I had left, a place where I had to find the strength to rebuild, not just for myself, but for my son, who is growing every day, carrying both my errors and my hopes. Life often presents us with difficult situations where fleeting emotions lead to life-altering decisions. But remember, every action has consequences, and sometimes the price we pay is far greater than we could have ever imagined. Before allowing your emotions to overwhelm your judgment, pause and reflect on what truly matters in life: your family, the people who love you, and your own well-being. Do not let moments of weakness dismantle what you have built. More importantly, learn to confront your mistakes. Only when you acknowledge your wrongs and accept responsibility can you begin the journey towards redemption. Forgiveness, whether from others or yourself, is the sole path to healing. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope you have learned from my mistakes. Life is never perfect, but we can make it better by appreciating what we have. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more meaningful stories. Hit the notification bell to stay updated on new stories. See you in the next one.